In this lesson, we will create eye joints. So these joints will, of course, control the character's eyeballs. However, they serve another purpose. We'll also use them to drive our fleshy eye behavior. So let's go ahead and get started by moving back to our side view. I'm going to go ahead and enable grid snapping. Let's go ahead and check our snap settings. I'll disable axis snapping, enable grid snapping, and that way we can draw a straight joint. Let's go back to our joint tool and create a quick joint. Okay, so the next step then is to go ahead and snap this to the center of our eyeball. Now I like to check for something first. If we were to go back to layers, let's go ahead and unlock the face layer so we can grab the eyeball. I like to check the orientation of the eye just to make sure that it will stay in its socket as we rotate around its center. If the axis is not centered, you can just head over to Mesh, Axis Center, Center Axis 2. That way we can go ahead and just snap the eye bone to that same spot and still have the eye cooperate. Okay, so the next step then is to go in and have the eye joint snap to the center of the left eye. You could always go ahead and enable axis snapping, disable grid snapping, grab the move tool. We're selecting the root, and we're just going to go ahead and drag that over. Now, if you find that it's kind of difficult to snap, feel free to go ahead and start hiding a few objects. For example, you can go to the head, just expand the hypernerves group here, and you can just go ahead and temporarily disable it or hide it from the objects manager. That way it's a lot easier to snap to that center. Okay, great. So at this point I'll go ahead and bring back the character's head. We can move back to the side view just to grab the end joint of this chain. I'll go ahead and turn off snapping, and we could just go ahead and pull that forward a bit more. That way, when we look at things from the perspective view, it's just easier to grab the joint and also to keep it track of the orientation of the eye as it rotates with the longer joint object. So I've just brought it so it's just outside of the iris. All right, let's go in and rename this. So it's going to be root L-I-01 BN L-I-01, and then the last is B-E-L-I. Now we'd like to point out that we won't be skinning this joint object. However, another way you can approach a fleshy eye is to add just a slight amount of weight from this joint object. So if you choose to skin to this, you can just add a very small amount, maybe 5%, maybe even less than that. That way, that will add on top of what we create, the fleshy eye rig we build, and that might create some very natural looking deformations. But after we're done skinning, you'll know exactly how to set that up. But again, in this course, due to how much we have to cover here, I'm not going to go ahead and have that skin. Alright, but once that's in place, I will go in and parent this, not to the head bone. Remember, it needs to be parented to the upper jaw since that's driving the upper half of the head. The main purpose of our head bone is to give us more control, so we can rotate from that object, or if we need to create more flexible results, we can use the upper and lower jaws. Alright, but we want this bone to follow the upper jaw, so let's go ahead and make sure it's parented there. I'll just go ahead and expand the head group, and we will find BN upper jaw. Let's go ahead and have that parented. Great. Alright, so just to take a look here, if we were to go in and grab the upper jaw bone and start to rotate just to test this out, everything's working just fine. Okay, great. Alright, so the next step then would be to mirror this across. So what I'll do is go in and grab the eye root and head over to Character and grab the Mirror Joint tool. Let's move back to our Attributes Manager and take a look at our properties here. So underneath Direction, you can have the coordinate set to world. All right, great. The origin as well. We're mirroring across the YZ plane. Okay, so we're mirroring across this in the X direction, so this is good to go. Let's go ahead and check our options. Everything's fine here. As far as naming goes, you can see that we're using a naming convention of _L to define the left side. So for the right side, we can use an _R. So I've added that here in our replace and with fields. Okay, great. So everything else should be just fine. We can go to the Tool tab, make sure Children is enabled so we can mirror over the entire hierarchy and choose Mirror. And there we have it. So the bone object is in place and it's already been renamed. Beautiful. So let's now go in and have the eyeballs actually parented to these bone objects. I'll hit the spacebar to exit the mirror tool, and it might be helpful to clone the Objects Manager. Just so we can go ahead and find the eyeballs a bit faster, I'll go ahead and select the left eye and choose View, scroll to First Active. Let's scroll down. All right, there it is. So now it's just a matter of finding the eye joint. Here it is, BNI. And let's go ahead and parent that right underneath. Let's do the same thing for the right eye. So there's the mesh, there's the bone object, and parent. Okay, so we can again test things out. We can always grab the upper jawbone, go in and start to rotate that again, and the eyes follow. Now we're going to do a much cooler setup with the eyes than that, of course, but that's a great start. All right, so that does it for this lesson. Again, we've managed to create eye joints, and it'll be really fun when we go in and tie the fleshy eye rig to be driven by these two objects. Now in the next lesson, what we'll do is work on our eyelid joints.